And we're back at Pitt with more track day footage. Yay. Well, this isn't even actually a track day. It's a Pennsylvania Motorcycle Safety Program on-track advanced riding clinic, which is kind of a cool thing. It's pretty unique to Pennsylvania. Well, it might actually be completely unique to Pennsylvania. So PA, the PennDOT has a special fund that's funded by our driver's license renewals that's used for motorcycle rider training. And part of that is advanced training, and that can happen on track. So basically anybody with a Pennsylvania motorcycle license can show up and do effectively a free track day with pretty good classroom. Yeah, it's a little more street oriented than like a YCRS, but for the price of free $99, you absolutely can't beat it. And the last couple of days I spent working this. I was basically towing around whoever showed up that was reasonably quick. And this is actually the last session of the day without a lot of traffic. Earlier in the day there are more bikes out, but this was the last session of the day, and I basically just played with Dan, who's in front of me. Got to spend a couple of laps either chasing him or towing him or whatever. The other cool thing about this event is all sorts of bikes show up. Like if you've ever wanted to see a dresser do laps around pit race, that's the thing here. But anyway, so I'm gonna chase Dan for a couple of laps, or maybe I'll pass him somewhere. I don't know. He's on an FZ09, and I'm on my super sport bike, so 70 at the wheel maybe, and on road tires. A little bit of 50 pence and a couple of corner adjustments. Either he said he had some suspension issues, but it could also be not looking far enough through the turn. But anyway, so if you've ever wanted to see a dresser run around on track, or take literally any bike, we had ADV bikes, we had, obviously we had some fast bikes. By the way, this is my favorite pass on students. It probably isn't going to work great in a race, but kind of just diving underneath, going straight into turn 5 seems to work very well. So I'm going to tow him around a little bit through the S's. Really fun flowing section. You're never vertical at all. Unfortunately, because I'm on my Super Sport, I don't have mirrors, so I don't know if I'm leaving him. And maybe I should have backed off a little bit just to give him a better carrot to chase, because I do seem to be running away a little bit. But anyway, so I'm on my Super Sport, 70 horse at the wheel. I'm on some weird street tire, like Sport Maxes or something. I don't know, whatever was cheap. For these days, I usually don't mount slicks because I don't have time to mess with warmers, and I usually don't do anything special for tire just because they just get shagged from riding around slow. Just wear them out for no reason, so I kind of use whatever tire that's cheap and I can get my hands on. So a little bit of a checkup just to see where he's at. Sounds like I'm rolling off to let him catch up. It's actually a lot of fun when you get to ride with quick people and potentially make them better or try to show them something. So let's go through a lap or whatever behind him. So a little bit of a wiggle there. Yeah, either there's some kind of suspension thing, or there's some kind of bump there that I don't notice. But yeah, you can see the FZ09 runs away from me really easily, but then I make up a lot of ground on the brakes because a little braver. I'm not braking very hard here, but I am making up some ground. I'm not going to go for the dive bomb here. So you can see he slowed a little too much, and then took a little while to get on the throttle. That might actually be part of why He's losing some time. Once again, getting on the brakes pretty casually, and my GoPro teleports us like 10 seconds into the future, or 2 seconds into the future. Really good place for a block pass, this little straight in the S's, because if you end up on the right side, you really don't, there's really not much they can do. They can't turn in on you, so that might be a good thing for me to use come race time, which is in a couple of weeks at Pitt. The Weir Endurance that I'm running with 4 dudes on a twin, or 3 other dudes, me being the 4th. So the other thing I'm noticing is either there's a little bit of a hesitation on getting on the power coming out of that downhill blind right, or maybe he just had a moment and he kind of fell off. And I think at this point I kind of said, all right, that's enough of a tow. The last session of the day is really also playtime for the instructors. So I think I'm just going to put down some kind of lap. So it's not going to be blazing quick, probably like in the 205 range or something like that, because Super Sport and bullshit tires and something of that nature. So coming into the, I don't know what to call it, the corkscrew, I guess, baby corkscrew, I tend to brake at the 2.5 if I'm full on. Maybe I can brake a little later and trail it in a little bit. Kind of just take a diagonal apex to apex line there. No need to swing out too far to the left for turn 5, because everybody will just bomb underneath you. And on the uphill, you can't give it a lot of stick because there's not, there's plenty of grip. It's not much of a turn, and SVs just don't make power going uphill. Brake at the like 1.5 or so. Kind of a whole bunch of mid-track entries for the S's. Maybe if you're faster, maybe if you're on a much higher power bike, it may be useful to use up more track, but I really haven't found a need, and if I'm using more track just by driving there, I'm wasting space. A little bit of a break for this uphill right-hander, about 3/4 entry for the blind right-hander, and now it's power all the way to the number boards, and this is actually kind of ballsy to do. On an SV, it takes a little bit. I'm sure on a 600 or a 1000, it gets scary, but like around the 1.5, brake, trail it in. I try to stay to the inside of that little patch because I've been getting wiggles on it. And once again, you can kind of hammer on the power and let it run you out wide. It doesn't really matter where it ends up. It kind of opens up anyway. And we're back at the start-finish. Not the quickest lap, definitely. 2.5 board for me. Sometimes 2 if I'm feeling really brave and want to brake harder. But I found that like I don't actually have to like stand up the bike on the nose to do well around here. So here I'm just kind of slowing down. I was wondering if I could maybe, you know, find Dan again, but looking back, I decided there wasn't really much to. He was too far away for me to like wait for him for half a lap. So I think I'm just gonna wick it up again. So the uphill is a double apex. You kind of run it out a little bit, apex early, run it out to like the middle of the track. No reason to go to the left. It's dirty over there. And then the second apex doesn't truly matter, but it is kind of in the general vicinity. I just kind of aim for the flagger tower because that's kind of where you want to end up going. On the other uphill right-hander, 17, 18, whatever, I also aim for the flagger tower because it kind of brings me back around really nicely. So I absolutely love doing these days because, one, being one of the few people in the world that get paid to ride on a racetrack, which is kind of awesome. Two, you can meet really cool people. Usually I'm playing with the faster guys, so they're going to be experienced. They're going to be people who are into the same thing as I am. And it's really rewarding, and especially when something clicks, when somebody finds something, when you finally give something to somebody that actually lets them, improve themselves. It's a really rewarding experience. I really like being an instructor here. It also doesn't hurt that 2 weeks before I'm doing an endurance race, I'm doing 2 days of riding around at every pace on every kind of tire, especially with my last experience at Roebling with skating out. This was a really good thing for me to do as a get back into things, make sure I'm fine for riding, and so on. So, kind of just gonna cruise around, look for markers, try to see if I can do something better, do something worse, where I would pass. Actually, a really fun thing with having a lot of really slow bikes, you get around, because this is kind of like a novice day, with some intermediate and advanced guys mixed in. With having slow bikes around, you do kind of figure out what you can get away with as far as bizarre lines that you may need to take to get around somebody, or if you get pushed wide or whatever. So gonna catch up to a couple of guys. Like I said, these are novice days. The way the day is, and just get that guy on power, get that guy on the brakes. Weird inside thing, but it doesn't matter because once again we're chasing novices. We're kind of going through them. This has to be in front of me. Really could have gotten on the power a lot earlier. I basically start adding it. I think it's fourth at the top. Like as soon as I'm laying the bike over there, he kind of almost waited till he was out of the corner to start hammering on it. The way these days are structured is for the first portion of the day. Well, for like first, I want to say 5 sessions of the day, we have an 85 mile an hour speed limit in the straights. Kind of hard for me to do without a speedometer on the bike, but I kind of just guesstimate. And that keeps the closing speeds down between the really fast guys and some of the newer people. What that does, however, let us do is work on technique without the speed. Without having, it's hard to practice, braking from 120 if you can only go 85. And I teleported again for some reason. I guess my GoPro is glitchy. It's hard to practice braking from 120, but you don't really need to if you're working on technique, if you're working on vision, if you're working on line selection, if you're working on trail braking and getting on the power early, doing things like using less brake leaves you a lot of brain space available for processing what you're going to be doing. I think that's my friend Edgar. Go around him. Yeah, pretty much just outside passes. So we do have pretty much, you're allowed to pass anywhere, but it has to be at quite a large distance, and we really discourage standing people up at tip-in or mid-corner, just because if it's a novice rider, you might spook them a little bit. Not a great situation, so much better to do either an outside one or just get them on the straight. A lot of these riders are pretty timid with the throttle, so it's not a huge deal to pass them going straight up and down, even on an SV. Fun fact: this weekend I passed the Busa in a straight line. Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't Busa-ing, but it is not a very throttle heavy day, which is really cool also because it's kind of just a chill riding day. Work on stuff. We had a ton of track time is 20 minutes every hour, and no flags, no red flags as far as I understood. At least the bus never rolled. We might have had a couple of somebody kind of go motocrossing or whatever, but no drama at all, which is kind of unusual for a novice day, honestly, because usually somebody gets a little hot-headed or something. So, really, really a worthwhile thing to do, especially if you're in PA, because it's free. Sign up on learntoridepa.com and look for Pittsburgh or Pocono or whatever in the advanced classes. Very well. What can I say? For the price of free, how can you go wrong? And you know, even if you're out of state, even if you have to pay, it's a much less intimidating kind of day than most other novice track days. If you like, there's guys on cruisers or whatever, so it doesn't matter what bike you bring as long as it's, you know, safe, has tires, not leaking. You know, can kind of get out of its own way. Maybe a Grom might be a little too small for this activity. I've had somebody a couple of years ago or last year or whatever. I had somebody riding my Grom because their bike was down, and this was a lot of work for them. But yeah, anyway, bring whatever bike, come out, try the track, learn how to do stuff.